AFC power rankings and AFC trade deadline discussion, folks. We've got a lot to cover today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Joe, this is fun because we're doing two shows in one, and that never ends well for us, but I have a great deal of confidence and self-efficacy in our ability to successfully reveal our power rankings and then do a buy or sell and players that are candidates in the AFC.
Buckle up.
Okay, let's do it. We'll start with top five, just reveal top five, do the same structure as what we do for power rankings, but do the abbreviated version and do it all in one segment.
Yeah, let's take a 30-minute conversation and break it down to like
9 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your top five in the AFC.
Yeah, we got changes, Kyle. We got changes.
I bet you do. Mr. Foolish put the Dolphins at number one last week. Shame on you.
Well, it looked pretty good for a while there, but we have made a switch to number one. It's the team that has won their last 6 games, the Kansas City Chiefs. And certainly their offense, right, has looked really good, obviously against the Chargers. A lot of production there defensively. They've been pretty strong all season long. So I have Kansas City at number one. How far am I going here?
Top five.
Dolphins fall down to number 2. I still have a lot of belief in Miami, but coming off of their loss to the Eagles, felt like it was a deserved slide down to number 2. At number 3, welcome to the party, Baltimore Ravens. A big-time convincing win over the Detroit Lions. Lamar Jackson playing MVP caliber football. And defensively, Baltimore, kind of waking up here. Number 4, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Thursday night win over the Saints. That's 4 in a row for them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And then at number 5, the Buffalo Bills, who are a capable football team, but certainly not playing up to their standard, especially on the offensive side of the football. And they lose to the Patriots, who I had dead last in the AFC entering last week.
Should make you feel very good to know I have the Kansas City Chiefs at number 1. I had them number 1 last week. At number 2, I have the Miami Dolphins, who I had at number 2 last week. Now, coming into week 7, I had Jacksonville and Buffalo at 3 and 4, and then I had the Ravens at 6. So I still left Jacksonville at 3 because I had them at 3 last week. And then I have Baltimore at 4, jumping up from 6 to 4, and then Buffalo at 5. So ours are very similar. I just trying to keep some congruency with where I was last week. Kept Jacksonville at 3 and then moved Baltimore up to 4 in front of Buffalo.
Gotcha.
Which is kind of cool because that is a representative for all 4 divisions and then a wild card candidate.
Yeah. So, is this actually what's the seeding right now?
I know Kansas City's 1 and I know Miami is still currently the 2. I think Baltimore's technically the 3.
Baltimore's the 3, so Jacksonville will be the 4.
Yeah.
I think Bills are the 7 now
so
in real life.
Scheduled to play right now in real life.
That's what we need. That's what you and I need, Kyle. A week 18 game to decide the division into another playoff game.
Anybody,
come on, man. You got to feel good about that. Well,
anybody but you.
It's what you and I deserve, right?
Anybody? No,
it's really healthy for us.
We deserve to be happy, and you get a lot of happiness from those matchups. I don't. Now,
well,
6 through 10.
Would you rather lose to the Bills or the Patriots, Kyle? Would you rather lose to the Bills or the Patriots?
Well, I'm not going to say anything because I play the Patriots this week.
Right. You better not tempt them.
I'm not going to say
right
anything.
there. Forgot you had that. Glad we can allow them to have a get-right game to to go play you.
Yeah.
Next 10 or next 6 through 10?
Next 6 or 6 through 10. Yeah.
Number 6, I have the quarterback play doesn't matter, Cleveland Browns.
I also have it 6.
It's the number 7, Pittsburgh Steelers, man. Just keep finding a way, winning games, beating teams they have no business beating, even if it shouldn't have happened. They're at number 7. I have the Houston Texans, who they were idle this past week, if I'm not mistaken. And number 9 team was idle, the Jets. And my number 10 team was idle, the Bengals. So,
okay, so we have all same teams in this block, and none in the same order after Cleveland at 6.
Okay, which I think was similar to last week. So I would expect all of those teams not playing.
Yeah,
for there to be really no shift.
I think my biggest surprise was you moved Cleveland or Pittsburgh from 9 to 7 over the idle Texans and Jets was your big change.
Yeah, they got their 4th win and beat the Rams. I mean, I don't know. I give them some credit for it.
Yep.
But Pittsburgh moves all over the place every week for me. So
right. I kept everything pretty much status quo from the previous week because there was a number of idle games. The Browns were 5 last week. They got jumped by the Ravens, but they won their contest in a squeaker against the Colts. So I left the Browns at 6. The Bengals were my 7th team. They stay at 7. The Jets were my 8 team. They stay at 8. The Texans were my 9 team. They stay at 9. And then the Steelers were my 10 team. They stay at 10.
All right. So 11 through 16, we had some stuff happen here, Kyle.
We did.
Denver won. New England won.
Yeah.
Chargers lost. The Ravens, the Raiders snapped their 3-game win streak. Here's how I have it. Here's how I have it. 11 is the Chargers. 12 is the Colts. 13 is the Raiders. 14 is the Patriots. They jump the Broncos and the Titans. I have the Titans at 15 and the Broncos at 16.
I have everything the same except I have the Titans in last place.
Titans in last place, Kyle, huh?
I have the Broncos 1. Titans.
Wow. Titans in last place, huh? Yeah.
You know, we're going to try not to be too petty.
They didn't trade. They didn't just. Was I dreaming, or did they trade Kevin Byard yesterday?
Traded Kevin Byard for nothing.
Tighten up, baby.
2 day 3 picks and Terrell Edmonds was the return for Kevin Byard, former All-Pro safety.
How do you Terrell Edmonds? Like, brother, I signed Philly for a reason. You guys shipping me out here to the cellar dwellers of the AFC? Come on, man.
And then Ryan Tannehill's banged up.
Maybe
can we ban trades with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tennessee Titans?
Brother.
They walked out of this with AJ Brown and Kevin Byard.
What's next?
Derrick Henry.
Better hope not. Better hope not.
They won't. Somebody might, but they won't. The Eagles won't. So that is our AFC conference power rankings, which we managed to boil down an entire show to 8 minutes. So maybe we should just sign off here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. But no, we're going to talk about sellers. We got to talk about trade candidates, all that stuff. Stick with us. But these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. And folks, it is so easy to create a free job post over at LinkedIn Jobs. And then once you do, add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Then simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Folks, you got to check out Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the funnest, most exciting, easiest way to play daily fantasy sports. I'm in love with this format. It's just you against the numbers. It's not you against thousands of other players, including pros, including sharks. Here's what you do. You select 2 or more players. You pick more or less on their projected stats, and you place your entry. That's it. It does not take long. You can make an entry in under a minute, and then when you win, the withdrawals are super quick. And folks, this is the best time of year for sports. Let's face it. You got college football, the NFL, NBA is about to get going here. NHL's kicked off. We got baseball playoffs. Everything is happening, and it's even more exciting to watch when you have a Prize Picks entry going into a slate of games. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use our code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
So now it's time to kind of draw the line in the sand, which should be relatively easy to do because we have the same teams in the same tiers. So I'm going to start with the bye conversation. You're probably going to start at the top of our AFC power rankings and ask, does this team need to buy? And what would they be interested in if they were to buy? And I think that's where this conversation can become a little compelling because we're starting with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
And you're wondering, is there any buy opportunities that are out there for Kansas City that would make sense with the current construction of their roster?
Well, you would think about wide receiver for them, perhaps. I know they just traded for Mecole Hardman. They just lost Nick Bolton to wrist surgery, right? He's going to miss a couple of months. Now, they do have good depth there with Willie Gay and, of course, Drew Tranquill, right? I mean, he's part of that mix. Leo Chenal as well. So they feel like they're in pretty decent shape there. Could their defensive line use some reinforcements? They're certainly performing fairly well, but you feel like maybe there's some opportunities there for upgrades. So that's what I consider. I think was so weird as I saw one of these rumors articles, and it was talking about sending Zach Ertz to the Chiefs. And it's like, man, I don't know about that, but that's kind of where I think they would need the most help if they were interested.
Is a pass catcher?
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously the Mecole Hardman addition with Justin Watson's injury there's some familiarity there that'll be really helpful, but I don't know that alleviates any of your issues.
Right.
And I would generally agree, you know, Mike Danis had a good season so far. And Karlaftis has taken some growth. And obviously, you get Chris Jones back, but having some more depth you feel really good about playing up front, whether that's inside or outside, I think could be helpful for Kansas City up front.
Yeah.
So I would look to buy. I wouldn't feel super pressured to buy.
Right.
If I were them. I certainly don't think they're particularly high up on like the pressure to buy scale because of the position that they find themselves in and the pathway that they continue to have this season.
Their coaching and quarterback dynamic is different for them.
Yeah, it's a little bit of I won't say neutralizer, really. Great compounding variables that make them even more challenging. Now, our number 2 team was the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
They bought last year with Bradley Chubb. They bought big at the deadline. I don't know that they'll buy big to the same degree, but they restructured Jason Sanders' contract last week. And my expectation is they continue to be aggressive. They're going to get a bunch of players back from injuries in the next 3 weeks or so, and like meaningful players. But I do still think there is an opportunity for Miami to buy at some point and give themselves some reinforcements somewhere. I think you can look at the secondary. I know they've invested a lot there, but Xavier Howard missed last week against Philadelphia with a groin. Jalen Ramsey is the meniscus repair. He might play this week against New England. Javon Holland's in concussion protocol right now. I thought the linebackers, Jerome Baker and David Long, played their best collective game of the season against Philadelphia. I thought the front seven in general did, and the pass rush has been pretty good. The challenge for Miami has been, I think, the transition from the Josh Boyer defense, Brian Flores defense, to the Vic Fangio defense has led to some pains in the secondary. And if there was somebody out there who was familiar with this scheme, I think that could open up the Dolphins to bring somebody in, be that a linebacker or a secondary player that's played in this type of system and is ready to contribute to it.
Well, we can get it. We're going to get into some of the candidates out there, and Denver, right, has a couple of linebackers, right? Mm-hmm. Bryce Callahan is also available to be signed, right?
Around. He came in for a visit too.
So when you talk about familiarity with Vic, I mean, you talk about back seven. I got some names.
There's options. There's also an option in Chicago that is kind of interesting too.
Yeah.
So So that's Miami. Jacksonville, or I guess do Baltimore because that's your 3.
Baltimore's got to be feeling pretty good about their situation. Obviously, you look at receiver, but it's like, is it a matter of just kind of making it work with what you have? That's where things get a little bit challenging there. There's players that have been around. There's players they've invested in at receiver.
Go get Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where you look, right? It's like this Gus Edwards, Justice Hill backfield. Whether it's Derrick Henry, I mean, the Dalvin Cook, right? Is he an interesting player? He's not interesting for me. But I don't know what the rest of the league is thinking there.
Imagine
that makes sense.
Your contract.
Are the Chargers going to be sellers? We'll get there. Austin Eckler? I'm not sure, man. So there's potentially some opportunities. But yeah, Derrick Henry takes this thing to another planet if he winds up going to Baltimore.
Yeah, I think that's the most exciting opportunity. And Baltimore, they've done that too, right? They struck with Roquan Smith as a buy.
Yeah, nice addition.
There's some trends for a couple of these teams. Now, Jacksonville, I kind of put them in the same boat as Kansas City. And I think that's a little bit more to do with the division that they're in. Like, I think there's a little bit less stress to feel like, hey, we got to get put over the top here. And they have left a lot of meat on the bone early this season with how they've played.
Yeah.
So that for me is they're going to be competitive, but I don't know that they're necessarily the same intensity of Baltimore looking at trying to win a division that has a bunch of 2-loss teams in it right now. And it looks like it's going to be very competitive. And Miami trying to get over the hump against a Buffalo team who's struggling right now, but Miami can't beat head to head. So I just think there's a little bit less pressure for Jacksonville to buy.
Yeah, and I think them getting Dwayne Smoot back is big for their edge rush situation, because that'd be kind of somewhere where I'd think about. And I think that's a huge addition. The Bills are next. Their defensive injuries is what stands out. At corner, Trey White, linebacker Milano, defensive tackle Daquan Jones. And so that's where I would think, although the offense is what's struggling right now, but I worry about the return there. How quickly can they onboard an offensive piece and get value out of them? Or I think they just need to get more out of what they have. And where I think you get concerned is defensively, how you saw it against the Patriots. They gave 29 to the Patriots. Mac Jones had the best game of his career, probably. At what point does that well break? Because you're just not having what you need there. I think defensively, linebacker, corner, maybe defensive tackle is where my mind goes for the Bills.
Yeah, and they should buy, right? At 4-3 with the aspirations that they have as a football team. You've talked about the leverage that they pulled from a salary cap perspective. They should buy. And
I think they redid Dawkins right before we recorded. So
right. So there's another player there. Now, I'm going to read some names because we're kind of into the smorgasbord category of gray area teams that have wins, but maybe the expectations aren't in that stratosphere. So I'm going to rip off a few names, and then we gotta get the sellers. Browns.
Their biggest problem is quarterback play.
Right. And you got a fully guaranteed $230 million contract. So I don't think that you got to figure out how to get the best out of him. Is there
a running back conversation here, though, Kyle? I mean, with Jerome Ford's now injured, right, with an ankle sprain. They're living with Kareem Hunt. I think
Kareem's fine.
I tend to as well. But as you think about the likelihood of running backs being traded, it's worth mentioning to me to the Browns.
And it's not even like you could look at skill players and say that they make sense. They didn't use Amari Cooper.
Right. Yeah.
Last week. The Bengals. Feels like the most antithesis thing that Cincinnati could do is buy a short-term rental or another long-term contract type player, right?
I think they just got to get more out of what they have.
Yep. And they got to get Joe back to himself.
Yeah. You see glimpses of that.
The New York Jets.
I don't think you mess with anything there.
I don't think there's a lot of opportunity to impact the areas that are limiting to the Jets.
Can they trade for an offensive lineman?
Right.
A tackle? Who are they going to get? Trent Brown from the Patriots? I mean, who's giving away starting tackles right now? Nobody.
The Houston Texans. I think you stay the course.
Stay the course.
As a young team, first-year coach, continue to develop your talent. Pittsburgh.
I wouldn't mess with much here. I mean, I might be looking to move a few assets if I'm Pittsburgh. If you can move a Levi Wallace to a team that's looking for help at corner.
And I'd also be knocking the door on a corner if I'm Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Peterson's been kind of rough. Porter's had some flashes, but I feel like that secondary could be a problem for them.
Yep. So if you want to make a run, I think corner's probably the spot that I would look at to try to find a player. And then you kind of get into sellers. Why don't we just do the sellers segment at the top of segment 3, or ask if they're sellers?
Yeah, we will get to that, and maybe you want to get to a game. You got to check out Game Time. It is the best way to buy tickets for the events that you want to go to: the sports, the music, the comedy, the theater events near you. They've got killer deals on last-minute tickets. They've got all-in prices, so when you go on the app, the price you see is the price you pay. They give you a view from your seat. I love that. So you know exactly what to expect when you get to an event, and they give you a best price guarantee. I mean, Game Time simply takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. I love the app. Super easy to navigate. They give you some flash deals when you log into that thing. And it's just they've really perfected the ticket buying process, which can sometimes be quite stressful. Not with Game Time. And I also love that they send the tickets directly to your phone, so you don't have to dig through your emails to find them. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off.
So our bottom 6 are the Chargers, the Colts, the Raiders, the Patriots, the Broncos, and the Titans. The Chargers, I think, are the only team. Well, I think the Colts probably could stay the course with amidst their reset. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yes.
I don't think it makes sense for the Colts to shed down talent,
right. No.
In the midst of the quarterback injury. You had a rookie quarterback who was supposed to play this year and get experience, and it didn't happen, but kind of set you off the rails for what your life cycle is as a team. The Chargers are the gray area. I think you and I probably both agree the Raiders, Patriots, and Broncos should sell. No, there was some big time conversation about the Patriots and players that they had that would be on the trade block just before they beat the Bills. Does they win against the Bills? And if they beat the Dolphins and you get to 3-5, does that change the conversation? I don't know. But if it were me, I would look to pivot a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
And the Titans have already started to sell with Kevin Byard.
Yeah, they told us that they're sellers.
So that just leaves the Chargers playing the Bears this week as the gray area team.
Thinking they win, they get to 3-4?
Right.
I'm not sure that they're willing to concede the season with Justin Herbert as their quarterback, but I think there's a ceiling on that team that doesn't intrigue me, and I have pieces like Khalil Mack, Michael Davis at corner, Austin Eckler, that I'm probably pretty interested in dangling out there.
Right. The hard part is you got a coach who's coaching for his job and potentially a GM who's GMing for his job. Yeah. And if you get to 3-4 and then you say to ownership, we're going to sell.
Well, it should be the other ownership should tell you to sell, right?
Right. But you're trying to win. So if they tell you you're to sell on Halloween, they're telling you you're done at the end of the year anyway.
It would be interesting to see if Telesco outlasts Staley. That's always really weird to me when those types of things happen.
I would be inclined to think that if either of them had a good chance to survive, it would be Tom.
I would agree.
But even the Chargers, they play the Bears, but then they're at New York and home against Detroit the next 2 games. And then they have Baltimore on November 26th.
Yeah, it's just how honest do they want to be about what's going on?
This could very realistically be a 7-loss team come December 1st.
Yeah.
And then it's in this conference, you're not making the playoffs down the stretch. You still got to play Buffalo and Kansas City in December or January. So they're kind of the gray area team, but we do have some clear and obvious teams that are selling or should be sellers.
Yeah.
You start with the Titans.
Yeah, I think
They
that's
already
where
told us.
they already told us. Derrick Henry, Danico Autry, Nuke Hopkins, those seem to be like pieces I'd be interested in.
Was there a worse player decision than DeAndre Hopkins choosing to sign with the Titans? I get like he want to get paid, right? But like he also framed it as I want to go to a contender.
Yeah, certain quarterbacks and going to a contender, and like you didn't do that at all. I don't know. To me, it was like J.J. Watt when he went to the Cardinals. It's like, okay.
And that Hopkins contract is a colossal disaster too, because they put 3 void years on the back end of that deal.
Jeez. The Titans got to stop with the veteran. I mean, like these receivers that they bring in, like whether it's him or Julio Jones or Andre Johnson. Did that happen, or am I making that up? Eric Moulds.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Like they get all these random old receivers that when they're past their expiration, even though I think Hopkins is probably the most reasonable player that they brought in, but it doesn't matter on that team. It's too limited of a football team.
You're looking at $8 million in dead cap next year if you move on from Nuke at the deadline.
Yeah, but I think you're mostly interested in the asset, right? What can you get for him?
The
Cardinals couldn't get anything for him, right?
Right, that's exactly right. So what are you going to get for a 31-year-old wide receiver?
I worry about Hopkins' reputation, man. I don't think he's viewed as one of the good guys in the NFL.
Maybe at this stage with how it ended in Arizona and the lack of market that he had from competitive teams that needed wide receiver help.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to question who would want to send an asset to send him out.
But Autry and Henry?
Autry's in a contract year.
Autry to the Chiefs? Don't let it happen, right? Come on. That'd be a perfect player for them.
I would be very interested in Danico Autry on my
everybody should be. I love that player.
So versatile inside, outside.
Yeah.
Explosive defensive lineman. Last year of his contract, so it's a short-term commitment, so you're not giving up a big asset. I'll dangle another name out there, Tier Tart.
Yeah, not bad.
$4.5 million salary this year. He's also in a contract year. He's 26, so there might be some long-term run with that if you wanted to go that way too.
Yeah.
So I think Tennessee's got a number of attractive players. We each had the Denver Broncos as our 15th ranked team. So let's go to Denver and their assets available next.
Well, guys in DJ Jones is a player I like to mention.
Yeah, I think that's a really good candidate to get moved if you're Denver.
I think both you and I are sitting here hoping.
Oh, kick rocks. You got Poona Ford. That was
you can have him. Take Poona.
Deal.
Poona ain't doing nothing. Jerry
so mad at you when the Bills signed Poona Ford.
Yeah, well, it's
DJ Jones. I think is a great candidate for a team to acquire if you need interior defensive line help.
Jerry Jeudy conversation never ends. Here's the problem with Jerry Jeudy. They picked up the 5th-year option, so he's on the fully guaranteed like $13 million deal next year. And maybe you like that, but that's a big piece of that discussion.
Can you use that as a foundation to get a contract extension? Get a contract extension and use that as like the signing bonus and like
but wouldn't you want to spend some time around Jerry Jeudy before you committed to him like that? You know, some inconsistency, the whole Steve Smith thing, whatever the heck that was. Like, I wouldn't be eager to do that. Josie Jewell, Alex Singleton at linebacker, Cortland Sutton at receiver for them.
You think there's any chance of Justin Simmons?
At some point, you have to keep some. You know what I mean? Like, some guys have to be part of your solution. You'd think Simmons could be that, but
how about Garrett Bowles? There's a lot of big base salary contracts that are going to be cut in half because they've played half the season.
Well, and remember, Sean Payton had the viral clip about Caleb Williams, right? Is that his big plan here? Well, if so, then you got to stop winning. Can't be beating the Packers by 2.
So I think the biggest hurdle for Denver with all of these players is the fact that they are reasonable salaries that you have to onboard.
Yeah.
Right? Like DJ Jones has a $10 million base salary. So you take the prorated amount of that for however many games there's going to play for his new team. You take Justin Simmons, 14.4. You take Cortland Sutton, 14. Judy's got a 5th-year option that's a big mystery bag.
Yeah.
So I think there's more hurdles for Denver's players than there are for Tennessee's players as far as having interest in a market, I think. But they have candidates. And they seem to have been just as much as interested in moving players based on the drumbeat that's been in the media. New England.
You want to get New England players?
Yeah.
Jalen Mills is the one that really stands out to me at corner. He doesn't have a role on that team. I think any team would probably be interested in some help in the secondary. Trent Brown at left tackle, expiring contract. He's having a good year. Do they want to go in a different direction there? Kendrick Bourne at receiver.
About Josh Uche in a contract year.
You got to want to keep him, right? I'd want to keep him.
I don't know. I mean,
I think he's one of the best speed rushers in the league, man.
He's a very good speed rusher, but does Bill pay pass rushers?
You're right.
Does Bill let pass rushers walk out the door because they got a million of them all the time?
Correct. Well, and I don't know, their pass rush looked pretty good without Judon, Uche, and Keon White last week, but make it make sense. Yeah, it's fair name to invoke. That would be interesting.
That might be one of the players that you get a better return for.
Yeah.
And if you have depth there, that's a 25-year-old speed rusher who's in a contract year, who's probably going to command at least Yannick Ngakoue money?
Which Yannick Ngakoue contract? The most recent one, or
no, not the one he signed in Chicago, but like those ones where like he was like a mid-20s speed rush.
I think he gets the Hassan Reddick to Carolina deal.
Was that 13?
Something like that. It might have been like 11.
Yeah. So like, is Bill going to pay that? And if the answer is no, then
he should. They got all the cap space in the world. Like, I don't know.
Should, but I don't know what inclination do you have that they're going to do business differently?
It's fair. It's a fair point. Those are my Patriots players: Brown, Mills, Bourne, and now you've invoked Uche, which is interesting.
Okay. I think the only other name that I would have is again Onwenu. Is I'd float that one out there as a contract year player. They drafted a bunch of interior offensive linemen.
They played him at right tackle against the Bills.
Right.
That might be their plan. So the right guard and Onwenu the right tackle.
So I just think they have a couple of contract year players that they had. That their availability will be determined by, does Bill foresee a new contract for them? Yes or no?
Right.
The Raiders.
Hunter Renfrow. The dude had a 100-catch season the year before McDaniels gets there. McDaniels, who had the slot receivers galore in New England, can't get this guy going? I mean,
it makes sense.
I can't. Renfrow, Josh Jacobs, Jermaine Illumineur's in a contract year. Marcus Peters is an old corner.
And they just signed him, too.
Yeah, I'm guessing if people wanted Marcus Peters, they could have signed him all off season long, right? So there's that. Does anybody want Austin Hooper? Probably not.
Bilal Nichols?
Yeah, I think he's expiring contract.
He is a contract year guy.
Yeah.
And he's got he had a roster bonus that's already paid. His base salary is less than $2.4 million. So that's a pretty easy onboard for somebody if they need defensive line help.
Yeah.
Do you want to touch on the Chargers quick, or are we going to say let's wait and see on them, see what
let's wait and see, but I think it's Michael Davis at corner, Khalil Mack, Austin Eckler are the players that are interesting to me as move candidates, and Eric Hendricks.
The interesting thing about Khalil, too, is that might be a sell high opportunity because he's got crazy good sack numbers right now.
Well, 6-1 game.
He had the 6 sack game, and then I know he had another one the following week.
Yeah.
Like, is there a sell high opportunity for Khalil versus what he was last year and what you think he's going to be moving forward?
Yeah. Let me throw out the Jets real quick. Not that they're sellers, but between Carl Lawson and Dalvin Cook, I feel like they'd be willing to do it for sure.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. All right. Well, those are names that we've identified. Pretty reasonable amount of names. Maybe not interesting names for some teams, but nevertheless names that are available. We'll do the same thing on the NFC side tomorrow. So come on back and see us. I'm Kyle Krabs. He is Joe Marino. We are Locked On NFL Scouting. Appreciate you guys checking out the show. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Come on back, see us. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.